Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, it's Friday, September 30th. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. Not guilty. That's the verdict from a Navy judge in the trial of a sailor charged with setting the fire on USS Bonhomme Richard in San Diego in July of 2020. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman was in the military courtroom when the judge handed down his decision.
When 21-year-old seaman recruit Ryan Mays entered the courtroom Friday, he was smiling and talking with his attorneys. His mom came over and gave him a kiss before the verdict. Judge Captain Derek Butler says Mays was not guilty on charges of willful hazarding of a vessel and aggravated arson. Mays broke down into tears. Then he embraced his family.
I'm so grateful that this is finally over.
Mays was smiling outside of the Navy courthouse after the judge acquitted him of starting the fire that destroyed USS Bonhomme Richard. It turned out to be one of the worst fires in U.S. Navy history, with the ship burning for days at Naval Base San Diego. Mays' trial lasted 10 days. Prosecutors alleged back in July of 2020, Mays was disgruntled over a failed attempt to become a Navy SEAL. They say he vented his frustration by igniting a fire in the lower hull of the billion-dollar ship. A witness testified that Mays was in the area where the fire started, but Mays' attorneys denied that he was involved, and they pointed to a lack of physical evidence from the prosecution.
This is exactly why the Navy provides professional and qualified defense counsel so that innocent sailors don't end up convicted for crimes they didn't commit.
Mays' former attorney and consultant, Gary Barthel, says the lower part of the ship was a junkyard and full of hazardous materials. He says we may never know how the fire was ultimately started.
I believe that throughout this entire process, the Navy was attempting to clean up their mess by accusing Seaman Mays of these allegations.
A spokesman for the U.S. Navy's Third Fleet acknowledged the acquittal and said the Navy is committed to upholding the principle of due process and a fair trial. Mays says he's happy with the outcome, but says he suffered irreparable damage.
I've lost time with friends. I've lost friends. I've lost time with family. And my entire Navy career was ruined. I am looking forward to starting over.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Local activists are not giving up their fight to stop deaths in San Diego County jails, even though Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed a bill aimed at addressing issues connected to a mounting death toll. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado tells us what they're planning next.
Yusuf Miller has been advocating for change inside San Diego County jails for years. He says it's shocking Governor Newsom vetoed the Saving Lives in Custody Act, a bill intended to prevent more deaths.
We believed in you, we supported you, and when it came down to the 0 hour, then we get stabbed in the heart.
But more than that, he says the families of some of the victims feel so betrayed, they want to leave the advocacy group he co-founded to create change.
You have set them back so far, not only politically, but emotionally. Some of them have even went for extra counseling just from the effects of this vetoing of the bill. You've made a hurt in these families' hearts that I'm still trying to bridge the gap and still trying to plug the holes of the despair that these families felt from this veto.
Assemblymember Dr. Akilah Weber introduced the Saving Lives in Custody Act in response to a state audit of the San Diego County jail system. It found inmate deaths in San Diego County jails have ranked among the highest in California for the past 15 years, and said authorities have consistently failed to address the problem.
I'm disappointed. I would let him and his staff know that I believe that they got this wrong. They got this veto wrong. Status quo is not working.
Newsom said he was rejecting the bill because it called for adding medical and mental health providers to the Board of State and Community Corrections. He said those additions could impede the board's ability to timely carry out its mission. Weber says that's a poor excuse because the board doesn't have any members with medical or mental health backgrounds.
If you have those people on the board, it doesn't slow down the process. It can actually speed it up, because you have that voice of expertise there.
Both Miller and Weber say this fight is not over.
The very first thing is to reassure the families that we can do this.
Now is not the time to be discouraged. It is the time to renew their fight within and get ready for the next battle.
They plan to hold a rally on Monday, and Weber is preparing to reintroduce the bill. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Rent, gas, food, and utility costs are rising across the U.S. and here in San Diego. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says cost of living is front of mind for many these days, especially for those looking for work.
With the average price of a gallon of gas once again nearing an all-time high in San Diego, and rent not far behind that same mark, basic necessities are becoming harder to afford, says Abdullah Ravish.
It's super hard, and right now I'm struggling, but at least I'm happy and lucky to be here.
He's a refugee and former diplomat from Afghanistan. Friday, he and his wife were at a job fair in El Cajon. Currently, he's working night shifts at the front desk of a hotel.
I do believe that I will find the job that I want, and it's no way that I should be survive here.
The event's hosted by the nonprofit organization Welcome.us, and it's specifically catered towards immigrants from his homeland and Ukraine. That's where Lana Tikhonchuk and her family recently arrived from. They've been living with the host family in Poway for the past 3 months.
We fled from invasion, as you know, so we came here to for a better life and to find some opportunities. We came with our family, and now we are looking for a job because we got our work authorization, and we want to live in our own place, so that's our goal.
Even with minimum wage going up to $16.30 in the new year for the city of San Diego, making enough money to cover daily expenses is tough for many of the immigrants at the job fair. Malak Malakiar-Sills is the Senior Director of Partnerships and Engagement with Welcome.us and an Afghan refugee herself. She says her organization is offering jobs with pathways for growth.
Because right now some of the newcomers are working sometimes 2+ jobs in order to be able to afford the cost of living here, and we want to put them on a pathway to self-sufficiency.
The 2-day event is the 4th of its kind in the nation and looks to connect people to a wide range of careers. The event will also run this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Many interviews are conducted on the spot, with attendees hoping to secure a job and financial stability during these expensive times. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Families can get a break from the high prices and have some fun all October. Coming up, a look at museums where kids can get in for free. Amtrak service north of San Diego County is now cut off due to a track closure in San Clemente. Both Pacific Surfliner and the Metrolink commuter service have been discontinued between Mission Viejo and Oceanside because of shifting coastal ground. San Diego County has dealt with some of the same problems with train tracks on unstable seaside bluffs, and it has taken steps to stabilize the slopes. But Sandag's CEO says the only real solution is moving the track inland.
You can patch and stabilize as much as you want, and you can fight nature, but nature will win at the end of the day. That's why we shouldn't waste any more money in patching, but actually working hard to move this track off the bluff.
The gap in train service is expected to last about 2 months. Amtrak says it's working to provide train service using connecting bus service to cover the route. Flu season is coming, and county health officials are urging everyone to get vaccinated for both COVID and influenza. They say it's safe to get both your COVID booster and flu shot at the same time. In fact, they say it's not a good idea to delay either shot. The new Pfizer bivalent booster is available to anyone aged 12 and older. The CDC recommends people get their COVID vaccine as soon as possible and get a flu shot by the end of October. New York is joining California as a state planning to phase out the sale of new gas-powered cars in the years ahead. In the Friday Business Report, SDSU's Miro Kopik tells us about the work needed to keep all those EVs charged up.
California is going to be very important in influencing the sale of electric vehicles. In fact, auto companies not only were excited when California announced it last month, but also New York, because when you look at just the combination of New York and California, that's almost 60 million people, which is about 18% of the country. The other thing that they announced, which is very important, is about infrastructure. They said that they would put in over $250 million to put in electronic charging stations. In the Inflation Reduction Act, there are $5 billion set aside to build a network of electric charging stations on 75,000 miles of roads in the country. So this becomes the next big thing to ensure that we, California, and any other state that adopts a similar kind of plan is able to support that and manage the transition over the next 5 to 10 or more years.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, recovery efforts ramp up in Florida while Hurricane Ian makes a second landfall in the Carolinas. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Governor Newsom is deploying an emergency team from California to Florida to help in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian. That includes members from both the San Diego and Chula Vista fire departments. Special teams are also going out to assist with animal rescues. San Diego Humane Society's emergency response team deployed early this morning. They will conduct water operations in boats as well as search and rescue of animals on land.
So my team is very excited. I don't think any of us slept last night, including myself. So we're just ready to get there and get our boots on the ground and be able to help where needed.
One way you can help in the hurricane recovery is by donating blood. The CEO of the San Diego Blood Bank says they've already provided platelets to blood centers in Florida.
I'm meteorologist Ariella Scalise. Let's take a look at those weather headlines, what we can expect. That marine layer continuing to bring those clouds and fog, especially in the morning hours, may retreat a little bit back towards the coast, but could still hang on for some of the beaches for the next several days. In the mountains, an isolated thunderstorm possible Sunday and Monday, and then we have some warm days and mild nights ahead as we head into next week. Looking at our forecast for tonight as we keep those clouds in Oceanside down to about 61. San Diego drops to about 66. And we'll see some of those 50s in the mountains. So feeling pretty good through tonight into tomorrow morning. And then as we head into tomorrow afternoon, again, that marine layer bringing some of those clouds, especially along the coast. Oceanside about 75, San Diego about 74. We're still dealing with those hot temperatures. Borrego Springs close to 100, but cooler weather as we head into the mountains and should stay mainly dry for tomorrow. But again, a better chance for an isolated shower or thunderstorm in the mountains as we head into Sunday and Monday. Otherwise, we're looking at seasonable temperatures through the day on Sunday. That better chance to see those spotty showers and storms will stay a bit to our east through the Four Corners as we head into Sunday. Here's a look at your 5-day outlook for the coast. Looking nice through the weekend. 75 on Saturday, 77 on Sunday. And then temperatures will gradually get warmer as we head into the start of next week. As we head further inland, we're talking about 80s for the weekend, seeing some of that cloud coverage still lingering on Saturday, some more sunshine on Sunday, and then that gradual warming trend as we head into the first half of next week. In the mountains, we're talking about 70s for the weekend. I mentioned that isolated shower or thunderstorm possible for Sunday and Monday, and then we'll see temperatures into the 70s through next week. And the desert continues to stay warm, that triple-digit heat back for next week. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Ariella Scalise.
San Diego Congressman Scott Peters is co-sponsoring a bill that would set a national research agenda for studying marijuana. It would also allow researchers to buy and test the many products found in legal cannabis shops. KPBS science and technology reporter Thomas Fudge has the story.
Lincoln Fish takes me on a tour of his marijuana shop in unincorporated El Cajon. He is the founder and CEO of Outco, where he legally sells a wide variety of pot products. He says most people still come to buy bud so they can roll their own joints, but there's a lot more to choose from.
These are pre-rolls that we make on site, but these are stronger because this is what's called an infused pre-roll. So we put the bud on the inside, but then we take the oil that is extracted from the plant and the keef, which is the kind of powdery substance that comes off, and we roll it in the keef.
Then there are the topicals, the vapes, and what are called tinctures, a liquid infused with cannabis that's often used as medicine. The effects of the many products at Outco may be known to the people who use them, but little is known about how they might affect most people or why they work the way they do. That's because these products cannot be legally studied due to federal law, which calls marijuana a Schedule I narcotic. Democratic Congressman Scott Peters has sponsored a bill called the Dank Act. It would shield researchers from legal sanctions for acquiring and testing state-legal cannabis products. The bill would also create new priorities for studying marijuana products.
So the idea behind this act is to develop a national research agenda so we can measure safety, efficacy, long-term effects, the mechanisms of use, maybe develop a sobriety test. All those things need to happen with cannabis around the country.
The Dank Act would establish 10 marijuana research centers around the country. One of them would most likely be at UC San Diego. Psychiatry professor Igor Grant is the director of UCSD's Center for Medicinal Cannabis Research. UCSD has been studying marijuana for 2 decades, but Grant says the explosion of the marijuana industry in states where it's legal has created many new questions.
For example, in California, people are getting products with many different strengths of THC, many combinations of CBD and THC and other products. They're also taking them, not necessarily by smoking a joint, but by vaporizing in some other way, or maybe taking it by mouth, maybe even rubbing it under their skin, so on and so forth. We know very little about how these products really are absorbed into the body, metabolized, and work.
THC is the chemical in pot that makes you high. It also has some proven medicinal effects. One effect of cannabis that Grant says is well documented is pain relief. Mark Wallace, professor of anesthesiology at UCSD, spoke on the topic at a news conference late last month. He said the correct use of cannabis by people with chronic pain shows impressive results.
We were seeing reductions in pain, reduction in opioids, and even elimination of opioids in the patients. And this was resulting in pain relief, improved sleep, improved function.
Also at that press conference was Colin Wells, an Afghan war veteran who credits cannabis for getting him off opioids.
I had a crippling opiate addiction for most of my life, compounded by my traumas in Afghanistan. Cannabis finally, after decades, empowered me with the ability to search within myself the strength to overcome my addiction.
So far, there is no known opposition to Peters' Dank Act, which he calls bipartisan, as it has a Republican co-sponsor, David Joyce from Ohio. Back at the Outco cannabis shop, Lincoln Fish has plenty of advice for what kind of cannabis works for what ailments, but he admits he doesn't know why it works.
It would be great to understand better, like, you have this issue, what should I be giving you? What should your dosage be? What is the best form for you to be taking this? And so we know a lot of it anecdotally, but if we could have some significant, large-scale, double-blind kind of studies, we could learn a lot more.
For now, marijuana used for medical research all comes from the same federally sanctioned farm in Mississippi. Some pot vendors say the quality of that marijuana is poor and way behind the times. Igor Grant admits that given the products available today, what they get from that Mississippi farm does not reflect what's sold on the marijuana market. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
He was cloned, but he is still one of a kind. A rare wild horse named Kurt was cloned 2 years ago from the DNA of a frozen Przewalski horse from 42 years ago. And now the endangered horse is with his own kind, a female to be exact, named Holly. San Diego Zoo experts are hoping that Kurt will learn how to be a wild horse and may even be able to breed in a few years. The Przewalski horse is extinct in the wild and has only been found in zoos for the last 40 years, though some wild herds have been reintroduced to their native home in China and Mongolia. If you're looking for fun and educational things to do with your children, October is your month. Beginning tomorrow, kids get in free at more than 50 museums and cultural institutions throughout the county. Here's more on Kids Free San Diego. The concept is pretty simple.
Kids Free San Diego is about kids and families having fun at museums and saving money.
San Diego Museum Council Executive Director Bob Lehman is charged up. This is the 11th year for the Kids Free event, but this year there's a lot more to do.
We're twice as big as we were last year, so they can go to over 50 museums all over San Diego County.
Generally speaking, kids 12 and under get in free, but each museum handles admission a little differently.
Some museums are free for the whole family. So others are, you buy a ticket for one adult and 2 kids get to go in free.
Several organizations are sponsoring the event, including First 5 San Diego.
First 5 San Diego is a local commission that funds a variety of programs and initiatives for pregnant women and young children birth to 5 throughout the county.
First 5 San Diego Executive Director Alicia Arguelles says the Kids Free event fits right into its core mission, the healthy development of children.
90% of brain development occurs first 5 years of life. And so when children are experiencing hands-on, tactile experiences, their brain is developing. And when children are really young, they learn through all their senses. So all of those experiences are really going to help them learn and eventually just be ready for school.
There's something for everyone. May sound a bit trite, but it's true. It's not just Balboa Park. Museums up and down the county are part of the event this year.
Our museums start all the way up north in Oceanside. They go all the way down to the Tijuana Estuary. We've got Chula Vista, we've got the Living Coast Discovery Center, and then all the way out in Campo, we've got the Pacific Southwest Railway Museum, where you can go out and take train rides.
From aerospace to railroads, surfboards to fine art, there's so much for the children of San Diego County to experience in October. But something tells me that one particular place is going to prove very popular among the younger set.
This is right up our alley. The Comic-Con Museum offers content that the kids in our city love.
What's not to love about Spider-Man? You'll find every manifestation of Spidey imaginable here. And who knew? There's a display of the celebrated author Ernest Hemingway as portrayed in comic books. Courtney Gant tells me some kids walk in, see the Pac-Man exhibit, and never see anything else. Kids Free San Diego. Educational, fun, and for the month of October, free. Very cool stuff in that Comic-Con museum. For more information on how to get coupons, you need them, visit SanDiegoMuseumCouncil.org. Halloween is just around the corner, making this the season for all things scary. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando loves the horrors that October brings, and she has these movie recommendations.
That's right, it's time for my favorite holiday. And to celebrate, Digital Gym Cinema will serve up Saturday Scaries every weekend in October with classic horror films such as John Carpenter's original Halloween.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
It's hard to remember just how original Halloween was back in 1978. Carpenter shot it in stunning, deep-focus widescreen, not typical for the low-budget genre. He showed barely a drop of blood, but made every kill count. And he crafted the elements that would define the modern slasher film. And he did it all with an elegant minimalism. Halloween closes out Digital Gym's Saturday Scaries on October 29th, but kicking off the series this Saturday is Dario Argento's Suspiria.
The only thing more terrifying than the last 12 minutes of Suspiria are the first 92.
Suspiria is an audacious example of Italian giallo, the violent thrillers that were the precursors to the American slasher films. Argento turned the genre up to a feverish 11 as an American student, played by Jessica Harper, arrives at an international dance school.
I just wanted to talk to you about some of the things that have been happening here lately.
Argento renders his tale with an eye-popping color palette and an excessive style that drips off the screen. The film delivers sensory overload that's best appreciated on a big screen. Saturday Scaries also includes the claustrophobic subterranean terror of The Descent, Sam Raimi's underappreciated horror comedy Drag Me to Hell, and the psychological horror of The Babadook.
If it's in a word or it's in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook.
Saturday Scaries serves up classics, but if you want something new, here are two films that try to rise above the formula fare Hollywood drags out each October.
I'm seeing something no one else can see except for me. It's smiling at me.
The trailer for Smile makes it look like a one-note jump scare exercise in horror, but the film actually attempts to develop the main character and explore how trauma can affect our psyche. Parker Finn adapted and expanded the film from his own short, but he stretches it a bit too far without enough originality to sustain it for 2 hours. Succeeding more fully than Smile is the recent Barbarian. That film cleverly twists tropes and shakes up the narrative structure, so we're kept off balance, on edge, and entertained. It builds tension well, delivers black humor, and gives us the creepiest Airbnb ever.
Nope.
But there's plenty to say yes to in theaters this October. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy your evening and have a great weekend.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.